Hey everybody, welcome to the press. Welcome to our second show this week. We're going to talk about everything that is not the Waste Management Phoenix Open. So that includes the LPGA's Founders Cup, the Qatar Masters on the DP World Tour, LIV Golf Riyadh, which is their season debut in Saudi Arabia, as well as the Astara Golf Championship in Bogota, Colombia on the Korn Ferry Tour. Want to get into things real quick. Yeah, we started our LPGA model last week. Alim Kim wound up winning the Founders Cup, and she did it as like a 50-1 shot, right? And she finished about in the dead middle of our model, 16th, I believe, out of 32 players in the field. So, given the short field and given the ratings, I think the model did okay. She was an unexpected winner. She went wire to wire. I don't think people saw that coming. So, pretty decent little week for that model. So, we're back at it again this week. Check it out at golfnewsnet.com. We'll talk about the top 10 here. And then if you want to get the rest of the field for the first full field event of the year, we'll have that available. We have a special offer now. It's permanent, not a fall special, which we extended through January. You can get 1 year for $40, 2 years for $70, 3 years for $100 at golfnewsnet.com. Let's talk about the Founders Cup. This event has undergone a couple of changes this year. Primarily location used to be in New Jersey and has been moved because Cognizant pulled out as the sponsor of the event. They now sponsor the PGA Tour event at PGA National, which just changed ownership. But that event, the Founders Cup event, was originally started with basically no purse. It was supposed to just kind of be a celebration that became a purse with an event with a great purse. When Cognizant came on, now it's back down to the kind of standard minimum purse of $2 million. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a change in kind of prestige, but also place on the schedule. It's now second. It's played in Florida at Bradenton Country Club. This place hosted the duel between Lydia Ko and Nelly Korda last year in that playoff. It was the Drive-On Championship last year. This year, it's the Founders Cup. Still the same place, still effectively the same tournament, and about the same people in it, to be honest with you. Bradenton Country Club's a par 71 with 6,465 yards of distance on the scorecard. Of course, they can play with that, but $2 million in the purse, $300,000 to the winner, and race the CME Globe for 500 points for the champion. This is a 120-player field. They had a two-spotter on Monday to add 2 players to the field, and then they had 1 sponsor exemption that they needed to add. So our ranking over at golfnewsnet.com doesn't account for that. It's 117 players in our ranking. So be it. I don't think we're going to miss out on the 3 that qualified either from that Monday qualifier or the invitation, but that's okay. A couple of things I want to point out here field-wise, though. You're going to notice Lexi Thompson, who's supposedly retired, is playing this week, and Brittany Lincecum, who's supposedly retired, is playing this week. They're both in Florida. They're both not that far away. They said they weren't going to walk away entirely from golf. They were going to pick their spots and play. Well, they found a spot to come pick and play. So they're in the field this week. Lexi Thompson actually rates out pretty well. Brittany Lincecum, not so much, but anyhow. Also, I do want to point out before we keep going on the show, this is a bit of a flu game for me this week. I mentioned in the first episode of the week, I felt like I got hit by a truck on Sunday. Didn't get to record the show on Monday that we normally do around the PGA Tour. And I definitely have some kind of form of flu. I look a little bit better today, but on Monday, I did not want to even get off the couch. I mean, it was pretty ugly. So put everything together today, both shows on Tuesday. Hopefully you don't have that problem moving forward, but this is a bit of a flu game episode. So let's look at the market. Top 19, 20 players here in the field for this week. Again, top heavy, right? You've got Nelly Korda, 5-1, won here last year. Lydia Ko, 8-1, who probably should have won here last year. Jin Young Ko is 15-1. Miyu Yamashita, who I've seen spelled multiple different ways, by the way. I've seen Miyu with 2 U's. I've seen it with 1 U. I guess it depends on the book. But 15-1, same person. Charlie Hall, 20-1. Ayaka Furue, 22-1 with Minji Lee. What I do want to underscore here, we talked about it a little bit last week, just for a second, but she went to the broomstick putter. She's gone to a longer putter, and it really seemed to click for her in the final round on Sunday. She was way out of it, but I think she shot 62 in the final round. If that kind of sticks, if this putter magic lasts, and if you ever play golf, you know new putter magic only lasts for like 6 weeks before it goes away. But if it sticks around and she sticks with it, she could win a tournament very quickly this year. Minji Lee, we mentioned. Ryo Takeda, 25-1. Brooke Henderson's 28-1. I think is worth a look here this week. Strong driver of the golf ball. And she's been in Florida for a while, so this isn't like a first event of the year. She played last week. Ina Yoon, 30-1. Aki Awai, along with Lauren Coughlin, 33-1. I think Lauren Coughlin is worth a look this week. I like Hannah Green in a top 10 bet in our group, the LPGA 6. We have that. That I went to her. She's plus 200 on the top 10. Nasa Hatok is also 35 to 1. Hyuju Kim. Mao Saigo, who I like a lot this week. I bet her put her in our group to win. 45 to 1. Megan Kang is 45 to 1. Angel Yin, Manon DeRoy, and Natalia Guseva are all 50 to 1 as well. I know Craig Thompson, who's in our group, loves Guseva here at 50 to 1 this week. He's been trying to bet her. She's had longer numbers, but she's playing better, so he's still taking that action at 50 to 1. I'm not quite as sold on her. I know she's a good player, but kind of how I feel about Erin Rye. She had a great year last year. Not out of nowhere. She's a young player, but is that sustainable? And I think I need to see a little bit more of that. Naturally, she's probably going to win this week now that I've said that. Let's look at the model for this week. Again, we did our first model last week. You had Alim Kim, I think 16th in the model, like dead middle of the field, which had her dead middle of the odds board as well. And so that, in my view, got it right. We didn't find, when the model works best is when you find someone whose ranking in the model is vastly higher or lower than what the odds market implies. And we didn't really have that in Alim Kim. She was properly rated. She won. That happens. So not as much value there. This week, I think there are some values here in this field. Nelly Korda, Jin Young Ko, Lydia Ko. Surprised Jin Young Ko is second here. I think Lydia Ko tends to do her best work in the toughest tournaments, and this is not one of those. And if you look at the way the Rolex rankings work, they're a little different in terms of evaluating fields. So Lydia Ko might flip-flop between second and third some weeks. Might get up to 1 if she has a great year this year, but it's going to be really hard to replace Nelly Korda every week. Ayaka Furue, fourth, not surprising. Charlie Hall, fifth, not surprising. Lauren Coughlin on the back of a 2-win season, sixth. Mao Saigo, seventh, which I'm, again, going to bet. Hannah Green, eighth. I have her on a top 10. Megan Kang gains a lot of strokes, kind of feisty. I don't think she has, I mean, I say that as Lydia Ko is one of the shorter hitters on tour, almost won this thing last year, but maybe worth a play. Hyuju Kim's 10th. And I like her chances. She just doesn't win enough. She just gains a lot of strokes. So I'd look at her at a top 10 or a top 20 play. Let's shift gears over to the commercial bank Qatar Masters. There was a period where people thought that this week, which had been left open, was going to be the week that LIV and DP World Tour had some kind of event together, and didn't quite work out that way. But we've got the Qatar Masters. This event tends to kind of get TBA'd on the schedule every year, and I don't know why that is, and someone can explain it to me, but it does tend to get that way. But still, it's an interesting event. Doha Golf Club hosts again. They've had this in different parts of Qatar in the past. This isn't particularly a named golf course. Peter Harradine is the architect, who I'd never even heard of until I researched for this show. It's one of the longer courses on the DP World Tour. It's 7,508 yards, par 72. Didn't open at 66. That's wrong on my part, but it's more recent than that, probably like in the mid-90s when they were just building golf courses left and right. A couple of guys I want to mention here in this event: Jorge Capillo, Ivan Quintero, and Elvis Smiley. Those guys. Jorge Capillo has got a good track record in this event, played well last week. Ivan Quintero played well last week. Still kind of up and coming. Elvis Smiley, I think, is just kind of worth a longer-term pick. Starting to kind of feel himself as a professional golfer, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's someone to maybe get on with a couple of dollars while it's kind of – he's still not quite recognized for being as good as he potentially is. LIV Golf kicks off their season this week in Riyadh. That starts on, Wednesday or Thursday night. It's on FS2 if you get that in your cable for the first couple of days, and then on FS1 on Sunday or Saturday night, which I'm not really sure that's going to draw a whole lot of people, but hey, whatever. We'll see what happens. They're playing under the lights. So I picked a couple of guys here based on form, and I picked a couple of guys based on Saudi Arabia play, and I picked one guy specifically because he's played under the lights recently. Tyrrell Hatton, 7-1. Love him this week. Played very well in DP World Tour events. He's just played well, period. He is a legit top 10 golfer in the world, and he has the right number based on that. Seems to play well in the Middle East as well. Joaquin Niemann has played well in Saudi Arabia in the past, has really just played well in general, and he's a guy who can beat up these kinds of fields pretty well. And then David Puig, depending on how you want to say it, but Puig, 20-1. I really like his chances. Played well in his limited stint on the DP World Tour. Again, good golfer, become a good player. He's like in the 70s in the world, and he gets no points for 14 of the events he plays. He's a very good player. It'd be very interesting to see what happens to him when his contract expires with LIV. And then Brooks Koepka, finally, 20-1. He played under the lights in the showdown. Obviously didn't win, but has played under the lights more recently. It's a little different playing under the lights. I don't know if you're a golfer or if you're just someone who likes pro golf and betting. However, in under the lights situations, it takes a little time to get your footing on where exactly your impact point is because of the shadows. And if you don't have great eyesight, it looks a little different. So just something worth noting. Koepka's got that figured out. I like him. I thought he was the better golfer in the match between Bryson and Brooks against Scotty and Rory. So I would mention Brooks Koepka there at 20-1. And then finally, we screwed up all the graphics here this week on the tournament names. This is the Astara Golf Championship. It's in Colombia, back-to-back events. This is a 2-course tournament. One is way shorter than the other. Had a 59 on that course last year, 2 59s. Aldrich Potgieter is now on the PGA Tour. And Cristobal Del Sol shot 57, Del Solar. So you can go low in that round, and then you go to the second course, and that hosts the weekend. And you play a 7,300-yard golf course. It's way tougher. So it's a very interesting, weird event. Get weird winners. I'm going to take a couple longer shots here. I like Neil Shipley's game. I think he's getting it to the place he needs to be. And I think he's got a good number here this week. Sam Bennett played pretty well last week. Fell apart in the end. My only concern with Sam Bennett is having spent some time around him and heard from people around him. I don't know his commitment to being as good as he can be. Let's just put it that way. But I do think he can be great. And then Rob Oppenheim, 150-1. Just great experience, great ability. And he's a little bit older player, a little bit older and wiser. So if he can manage the longer golf course pretty well, I think he's got a chance. That's going to do it for us today on this shorter episode, just to cover the couple events that we have left over this week. Next week, we'll do the same thing. We'll talk about Torrey Pines in its own episode, everything else in its other. We didn't talk about the Champions Tour in Morocco. That's a weird event for me. I would just pass on all of that together. So look for those picks elsewhere if you're interested. But otherwise, I think we've got some good potential plays this week, especially on the LPGA side and the LIV side. And then obviously I like our picks on the PGA Tour side. Join Golf News Net for $40 a year, $70 for 2 years, and $100 for 3 years at golfnewsnet.com. Watch this show on our YouTube channel, on our social media accounts. You can watch on GNN TV, which is available for our Roku app, on Free Life Sports and in Freecast. And we hope to see you on the show next week, catching a listen or watching it. You can listen as a podcast as well. Thanks so much for spending some time with me. We'll talk to you next week here on The Press. Good luck with your bets this week.